Fig Newtons are known for being a delicious snack that seems healthy. But how nutritious are they actually? We asked 2 experts, and their answers may shock you. It's no surprise that Fig Newtons and other similar cookies contain figs. In fact, the first ingredient listed is the dark purple fruit, which means there's more fig in the recipe than anything else. Figs themselves are widely recognized for their nutritional benefits. They're naturally sweet and packed with fiber, magnesium, and potassium. That said, Fig Newtons aren't made from fresh, whole figs straight off the tree, and the nutritional value of any ingredient can change depending on how it's processed or stored. Freezing, pasteurizing, dehydrating, and baking all impact the nutrient content, so you can't assume that the figs in a Newton provide the same nutrition as the same weight of fresh fruit. The exact production method for Fig Newtons is proprietary, but in a How It's Made episode covering Newman's own Fig Newmans, the fig filling is made by combining blocks of dried fig paste with powdered cookies, corn syrup, salt, and sugar. While figs may be the heaviest ingredient by weight, the center of the cookie isn't made of pure fruit. The next major ingredient in Fig Newtons is flour. Whole grain wheat flour comes first, followed by unbleached enriched flour, which appears after sugar. Registered dietitian and nutrition therapist Emily Van Eck explained the differences between the 2 types of flour, noting, whole grain flour contains more fiber than enriched flour. A piece of bread made with whole grain flour will have about 5 grams of fiber per serving compared to enriched flour at 1.5 grams per serving. Products made from whole grain flour have a lower glycemic index due to their higher fiber content. Lower glycemic index foods will raise your blood sugar slower and more evenly than a higher GI food. She also pointed out that whole grain flour is richer in vitamin E, magnesium, zinc, and B vitamins, including thiamine, niacin, folic acid, and riboflavin. Enriched flour doesn't contain these naturally since the bran and germ are removed. However, enriched flour has many vitamins and minerals added back to the flour. In fact, enriched flour typically contains slightly higher amounts of iron and many vitamins compared with whole grain flour. Food labels can sometimes be misleading by listing different forms of the same ingredient separately. Take Fig Newtons, for instance. They contain 3 kinds of sugar: table sugar, corn syrup, and invert sugar, which appear 3rd, 5th, and 6th on the ingredients list. Combined, they make up a significant portion of the snack. 4 Fig Newtons have 24 grams of sugar, more than half of which comes from added sugar rather than the figs themselves. For comparison, a 53-gram Snickers bar has 28 grams of sugar, highlighting just how sweet Newtons are despite their marketing focus on whole grains and real fruit. The type of sugar matters too. Corn syrup is made by breaking down cornstarch with heat or enzymes, converting some glucose into fructose, which is sweeter. It's cheaper than table sugar, making it a popular choice for manufacturers. Invert sugar is created in a similar way, but it starts with table sugar instead of cornstarch. Like corn syrup, the process converts some of the sugar into fructose, giving a sweeter result without extra cost. As with many baked treats, Fig Newtons include several types of oil: palm oil, a saturated fat, along with either canola or soybean oil, which are unsaturated fats. Registered dietitian Emily Van Eck explained, "It is pretty clear from decades of good quality research that higher unsaturated fat in the diet reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease, and that higher saturated fat increases risk. Since palm oil contains a high amount of saturated fat, it's wise to watch your intake of it overall. That said, Fig Newtons contain only 0.5 grams of saturated fat per package, so a very small amount in the grand scheme of things." She went on to bust a common misconception, noting, "Canola oil is perfectly healthy and high in polyunsaturated fatty acids. Soybean oil has slightly less evidence of its health-promoting properties, but is still good for you compared with palm oil and other saturated fats. Even though there are a good number of people blaming refined oils for many health problems, no good evidence exists that these unsaturated fats are harmful to humans, especially in moderate amounts."
Fruit Chewy Newtons.
Let you ride my bike.
Tastes too good to give up.
Sodium is a staple in many processed foods and serves multiple roles. Beyond boosting flavor, it helps preserve the product, improves its color, and affects texture. While sodium is an essential mineral for the body, too much can raise blood pressure and increase the risk of heart disease and strokes. 4 Fig Newtons contain 190 milligrams of sodium, which is about 8% of the recommended daily allowance. That might not sound like much, but it's on par with some famously salty snacks. For comparison, a 1-ounce bag of Doritos has 210 milligrams, while a 1-ounce serving of Fritos has 160 milligrams. Even though Fig Newtons don't taste very salty, they still pack a significant sodium punch. Another contributor to the sodium in Fig Newtons, besides regular salt, is baking soda. Home bakers know it as a common leavening agent, often used alongside baking powder. It helps quick breads like cookies and cakes rise quickly in the oven, unlike yeast breads, which require a slower rise. Baking soda is used in both home kitchens and commercial baking and is considered safe in standard amounts. Calcium lactate is less familiar to most home cooks. Like baking soda, it can act as a leavening agent, but it also has many other applications. It appears in products ranging from condiments to beer, enhancing flavor, texture, shelf life, and reducing acidity. It's also added to foods to boost calcium content and can be purchased as a supplement for bone and heart health. In small amounts, calcium lactate is safe to consume, just like baking soda. If you look at the ingredient list on most packaged snacks, you'll probably find lecithin, an emulsifier derived from soybeans or egg yolks. Soy lecithin has been widely used in the US since the 1940s and performs a variety of roles in food. In Fig Newtons and similar cookies, it's likely included at least partly as an emulsifier and is considered safe in small amounts. In baked goods, soy lecithin works similarly to egg yolks, helping prevent toughness, dryness, and staleness by assisting with moisture absorption. It also enhances flavor. With all these benefits, it's easy to see why lecithin is such a common ingredient in processed foods. Even if lecithin itself isn't listed, other emulsifiers like mono and diglycerides or propylene glycol esters are often used. Preservatives are a major part of almost any packaged snack. Ever noticed how a store-bought loaf of bread can stay soft and mold-free for weeks, while homemade bread might go bad in a day? That's the power of preservatives. They generally fall into two categories: natural and synthetic. Natural preservatives include ascorbic acid, vitamin C, citric acid, and vitamin E, or tocopherols, all derived from fruits, nuts, and other natural sources. Synthetic preservatives include calcium phosphate, sodium benzoate, and sulfur dioxide, two of which appear in Fig Newtons and similar cookies. According to Natalie Allen, clinical assistant professor of nutrition and dietetics at Missouri State University, small amounts of these preservatives aren't a cause for concern. She explained, "The FDA has approved thousands of food additives and preservatives. In small amounts, food items that contain them are safe. But again, the key is moderation. Have a couple of Fig Newtons, not the whole box." When compared to other soft, fruit-filled bars, Fig Newtons don't particularly excel or fall behind. A 29-gram serving, which equals 2 cookies, has 100 calories, 12 grams of sugar, 1 gram of fiber, and 0 saturated fat. By contrast, a 37-gram Kellogg's Nutri-Grain bar contains 130 calories, 12 grams of sugar, 1 gram of fiber, and 0 saturated fat, 1 gram of fiber, and 0.5 grams of saturated fat. Similarly, a 32-gram serving of Newman's Own Fig Newmans, also 2 cookies, has 100 calories, 10 grams of sugar, 1 gram of fiber, and no saturated fat. Since most people don't stick to the recommended serving size, it's fair to compare equivalent portions. A 37-gram portion of Fig Newtons comes out to roughly 200 calories and 24 grams of sugar, making it roughly on par with a Nutri-Grain bar. It's also worth noting that the classification of baked fruit-filled bars is somewhat subjective.
A proper gentleman eats 1 cookie at a time.
But these aren't cookies. They're Newtons.
Some people see them as breakfast bars, while others consider them cookies. Fig Newtons, Nutri-Grain bars, and Fig Newmans all have significantly more sugar than other snack bars. For example, a 32-gram fruit and nut trail mix bar from Nature Valley contains just 7 grams of sugar. In this way, Newtons are more comparable to Oreos, which pack 14 grams of sugar in a 34-gram serving. A major takeaway from a study published in the British Medical Journal in May 2024 was that the harmful effects of ultra-processed foods can be offset by maintaining an overall healthy diet. When we asked Emily Van Eck whether Fig Newtons could fit into a balanced eating plan, she explained, "If you like Fig Newtons, they can be a healthy part of a balanced diet and would make an easy and convenient snack, especially for on the go. They contain whole grain flour and figs, both quite good for you. They're mostly carbohydrates, so I'd probably suggest pairing them with protein and fat for a balanced and filling snack. Nuts, nut butter, yogurt would all be a good fit." Even foods that contain nutritious ingredients and appear to have a decent nutrition profile can become less healthy because of how they're processed. As Natalie Allen explained, ultra-processed food has added ingredients, such as sugar, salt, fat, and artificial colors or preservatives. Examples of these foods are soft drinks, salty snacks, packaged baked goods, and hot dogs. Research has long explored the negative effects of ultra-processed foods on health. A study published in the British Medical Journal followed more than 100,000 people over 30 years who had no prior history of cancer, heart disease, or diabetes, and found that eating ultra-processed foods was linked to higher mortality. Ultra-processed meats and seafood showed the strongest connection to all-cause death, but desserts and breakfast foods, like fig Newtons, were also highlighted as particularly concerning. Allen explained that ultra-processed foods account for over half of the calories Americans eat and contribute heavily to our sugar intake. She also pointed out that most foods undergo some processing to improve flavor or extend shelf life, adding, "My best advice is to limit processed food when possible. Shop the farmer's market, buy whole grains, and eat fruits and vegetables." Ultra-processed foods are typically higher in fat, sodium, and additives, while also being lower in nutritional value. A simple way to tell if a food is ultra-processed is to ask whether it was made using machines or ingredients you wouldn't have in your own kitchen.
A cookie is just a cookie, but Newtons are fruit and cake.